So if you can talk about those things, it really just digs deeper into that analysis. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Megan and I post new videos every Wednesday. This week, I wanted to talk to you guys about different literary devices that you can use in a poetry analysis that are a little bit more unique. So I always love to do literary analysis and poetry analysis in college. It's one of my favorite things. I just really love it. And I always like to try and find more unique ways to look at an analysis and use those techniques to draw out a whole group of other things out of a poem than different devices would allow you to do. So the first thing I want to talk about is rhyme scheme. I did an entire video talking about that, so I will link it up here so you can watch it. But rhyme scheme is a great thing to talk about in a poem. Rhyme scheme can really show you about a theme and pull more out about a theme. If there is no rhyme scheme, that can tell you a lot. If the rhyme scheme changes, that can tell you a lot. If the rhyme scheme is different than what that particular poet tended to write, that can tell you a lot. Sometimes that consistency of a rhyme is really important to what the poem is trying to get across, or the state of mind that the poem or the subject is in. And it's a super interesting way to go about discussing something like that. Then we can talk about sounds. So I really like to talk about sounds, and particularly plosive sounds. That was just something that kind of stuck with me. But you can look at any of the different sound types and talk about those when analyzing a poem. So plosive sounds are those sounds that are like the b, p, ch, t, k. Those harsh, quick stop sounds. One way that I would look at plosives as a sound device in poems was if the poem's subject matter was about war or a battle or anything like that, because those sounds are so reminiscent of gunshots or bombs or fighting or anything along those lines. So for example, if you look at The Charge of the Light Brigade, there's a lot of those plosive sounds that really adds another layer of sensory experience to the poem's experience and the poem's reading experience. So you're not just getting those images as a visual cue, but you're also getting those plosive sounds as an audio cue, and it adds a whole new experience for the poem. So if you can talk about those things, it really just digs deeper into that analysis. This one's a little more unique, but sometimes the shape of the poem can tell you a lot. You're not going to see this all the time, but it's worth having in the back of your mind to pay attention to. So if we look at the Convergence of the Twain, which is about a boat sinking, the fact that it shapes like a boat is a conscious choice. Not every literary device is going to be an active choice on the part of the poet, but the shape of the poem, if that's going to relate to the theme or the tone or the subject in any way, that tells you something, and that is an active choice. Any inconsistencies are another great thing to pay attention to. If the rhyme scheme changes, if the meter changes, if the tone changes, anything like that is going to tell you so much about the poem, and you can say, there's a change here, now why is that happening? Maybe the beginning part of the poem is a social commentary, but you don't really realize that until the change in the second part of the poem that reveals that the writer is making a social commentary and not agreeing with whatever aspect they're discussing. All of those kinds of things, anything that shows a change, there's an opportunity for analysis there. Now this one isn't one that I used so much, but it can be a really great one to discuss, and that's meter. Meter was just one of those things that for me didn't kind of latch on, so it's not the kind of thing I would pay attention to in a poetry reading, but similar to sounds, it adds that other layer of poetry reading experience and sensory experience that can be really interesting to look at. So you might look at why a certain type of meter was more beneficial to use that the poet used in this poem, or if the poet used a meter that wasn't popular for the time that they wrote the poem and why they may have changed from that, or why a particular meter was popular during a certain period, how it relates to the politics or the social life or the religious aspects of the time, any of those things, how those can pull into sound and meter and any other devices can be hugely beneficial to an analysis. And the last thing I want to talk about today is author biography. So if you can learn about a poet and what was going on in their life, and especially at the time a poem was written, that can tell you a lot about how it was written. And so you can say, because Keats was going through this grief of his own life and his own impending death, that can explain why he was so reliant on rhyme scheme. He was trying to force this rhyme and reason to life, quite literally. He was trying to force this idea of things going how they were supposed to. Or you look at Mary Shelley and her experiences with motherhood and how she felt about it, that relates to how she wrote Frankenstein that you would not understand or see otherwise. So those are all the things I'm going to discuss today. I could definitely do another video on this, so if you want to learn about different literary devices or there are any specific ones you want me to go into detail on, please let me know in the comments. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see any other videos on my channel, let me know in the comment section. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and press the bell so you don't miss any of my new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye!